Well-placed sources told us over the weekend that the Big 12 is being aggressive with ACC basketball membership and has their eyes solely set on Duke to pair with Gonzaga at a minimum to add to the Big 12, and that Brett Yormark and his emissaries have been building relationships behind the scenes. They have been back channeling, trying to open up lines of communications. Where have we heard this before? I don't know when the Big 12 expanded with the Pac-4 falling off the face of the earth and getting Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah to join the Big 12. And how did we hear and what did we report on this show? That Brett Yormark was using back channel communications and relationships he already has to open lines of communication to add those 4 schools to the Big 12. And he did. And now we are hearing that that is exactly the way he is operating, as he is targeting potential free agency after the ACC melts down, and his sights are set solely on Duke, who clearly would be one of the prize catches in college basketball. Now, the question remains, who else would the Big 12 add? We'll talk about that in a minute. But is Duke a good fit in the Big 12? And I would have to say, absolutely they are, because Duke, as we all know, has a football program. And that football program has been better, but it's never going to be elite. Whereas the basketball program perennially is a national championship contender, and this year is no different than that. And I think Brett Yormark knows very clearly he's already got arguably the most valuable basketball property in the country when it comes to conference strength of basketball. I think Brett Yormark is very well aware what the Big 12 is worth in basketball, and adding universities like Duke and Gonzaga would be a very pragmatic move. Now, the question is, why has Gonzaga been so hesitant to join the Big 12? And I think it is a very important question to which we don't know the answer to. Why has Gonzaga not accepted the invitation that Brett Yormark has laid out for them? I think it is a very interesting question. Are they waiting for more realignment? And would Duke do enough if Duke were to join the Big 12 to turn the tide and move Gonzaga to accept the standing invitation that they have from Brett Yormark and the Big 12 to become a member? That is ultimately the question. But, Jake, is Duke a good fit in the Big 12?
I don't know how you can say they're a bad fit on any level. I mean, obviously, of course, they're a storied basketball program. Obviously, they'd be the best basketball program in the conference, in my opinion. I know, obviously, you got Houston, and Houston's great. But Duke obviously has a long track record of dominance in basketball. And I think that the play for Brett Yormark right now is understanding that they have to be, without a doubt, the best basketball conference in the country. And they need to see the fruits of that labor, happen in the tournament. And that's why I think the performance this weekend and kind of the performance in the big picture hasn't exactly lived up to it yet. And I think that Brett uniquely understands, hey, if we're not going to be, elite in football, like if we're going to have 1, maybe 2 teams in the college football playoff, let's say, every year, then we need to make sure that we're getting a big time amount of tournament shares every single season to offset that. And I think that's where he's going with this. He understands, hey, at some point the ACC is going to dissolve. At some point that's going to happen, and we need to start forming those relationships now. We need to start getting ahead of that thing now. Because if you don't, you're going to wind up in the same position that the Pac-12 was in, which is you don't have relationships. You're not in a power position to survive. And obviously Brett doesn't want that. And I think the other thing is Brett Yormark has shown that he understands how to do good business. There's a variety of different things now that he's done that proves that. And so it doesn't surprise me to hear that this guy is aggressively working to figure out how to add premier brands like Duke, like Gonzaga. We've been telling you about Gonzaga for a long time. So the idea that he's trying to pair Gonzaga with another school doesn't surprise me in the least bit.
Yeah, I don't know that I would tie it to football, though. I think that is a common refrain that because the Big 12 cannot compete in football. I disagree with that. I think that the Big 12 is uniquely structured in football. I think that you lack a power brand. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think if you are the Big 12, you have to make more money in basketball so that you can facilitate growth in football, because you can never look past football income. It's just not possible. And with the expansion of the college football playoff and what I think most people believe is going to be further expansion, you have to be able to, on a year in and year out basis, solidify the fact that you are a football revenue generator, which right now I don't believe that the Big 12 can say that. And it'll be interesting, as we've talked about ad nauseum on this show, it'll be very interesting to see which brands step up. And again, not to keep picking on Baylor, but it's brands like Baylor. Texas Tech should absolutely be a foundational piece of the success of Big 12 football. However, they have not been, and maybe they won't be. With Mike Gundy on the downside, certainly, of his career and his inability to consistently compete at the highest levels of college football, I don't think there's any question that this league is open for business. And I think that's why Utah will play such a prominent role in success or failure in Big 12 football. But I think when it comes to Big 12 basketball, and you look at the opportunity that is going to be, I think now almost inevitably presented by what's happening in the ACC, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what Brett Yormark and his crew are able to accomplish, because there's no question now. It is not even a debate at this point as to whether or not the Big 12 is already maneuvering behind the scenes to try and add premier basketball brands from the ACC should they become available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important caveat. It's not as though Brett Yormark and the Big 12 are working to drive a wedge that would ultimately bring down or make available the Dukes of the world. But I don't think there's any doubt that Brett Yormark, who has been a pragmatic operator in this conference since he took over as commissioner, I don't think there's any doubt that he is ready to rock and roll. And there is no doubt that he is having conversations directly or indirectly with members of the ACC to let them know that they have a landing spot in basketball in the Big 12. And I think that's as much as we are comfortable to say, because I just think this is such a fluid situation.
Well, and I don't think you can overplay your hand if you're Brett. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to seem desperate, but again, I can't emphasize this enough. I mean, this is hardly the first time we've heard about Brett doing things like this. I mean, this goes back to this, like you said, this goes back to the Pac-12 situation where we told you Brett Yormark was in contact with Tom Homo to get to Taylor Randall at Utah. It's that type of networking and those type of conversations that allow you to start forming relationships with people that maybe you don't have the opportunity to talk to as much. But I do believe moving forward for the Big 12, you got to have a big brand in that conference. And I love Utah, and Utah's great, and they're awesome, but they're not brand wise on the same level as Duke in this example, or whatever big time school you want to look at. And I think that's where, whether it's basketball or football, you need to find a way to add that big nameplate back to your conference, because it used to be Texas and Oklahoma, and mostly Texas. Oklahoma would be good here and there, but Texas was the one that everybody looked at in the Big 12. And now it's like, well, who are we supposed to look at? Who are we supposed to just gravitate to? Because obviously on paper that's Utah, but I think that one thing we can say about the Big 12 is it's a very unpredictable league on the football field. It's not like the SEC or the Big 10.
You can't count on the Big 12 to compete in football.
Yeah.
You can't. And again, I'm sure that if Oak State James and every other Oklahoma State fan that's here usually, you don't have to like it, but you better learn to love it, because Mike Gundy's not a winner.
Well,
Mike Gundy's not a guy that's going to build an elite program year in and year out.
Even if they were elite, though, right? Like, let's say Mike was like just the best guy we've ever seen, and Oklahoma State was Alabama good. It still doesn't matter, because they're not a sexy brand. That's the problem. And I don't think you can get away from that.
I think if they were Alabama good, they would be a sexy brand. And I think if Mike Gundy hadn't embarrassed the entire state of Oklahoma with his ridiculousness about Bedlam, we'd be having a different conversation.
Well, that's true.
But yet he has.
Yeah.
He's just, if you look at this league, Mike Gundy is a problem for the Big 12 because he does not win at the highest level. And you look at Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. You look at Texas Tech basketball. They needed Texas Tech basketball to make a run. That cost the Big 12 money. There's no question about it. And again, I understand that's a young program right now. You're in a transition period in Lubbock on the basketball floor. Totally understand that. Doesn't excuse the fact you had a revenue opportunity there and you lost it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't excuse the fact that Baylor seems to get a free pass in this league. year in and year out for being what amounts to a pretty shitty athletic department.
Yeah.
Like, you're not winning on the football field, and you didn't fire Dave Aranda. And now you flamed out in the NCAA tournament. You're not helping, you're hurting. And you look across this league, Sonny Dykes at TCU was nothing short of a massive disappointment this past football season. Losing in the NCAA tournament for TCU was while not favored, a disappointment. There's no way, and if we continue to try and spin this and polish a turd, nobody's going to tell the truth, right? And the bottom line is the Big 12 has not competed at a high level often enough. And it can't be that TCU's this one-off. It can't be that Kansas football goes back to oblivion, because Bill Self and Kansas basketball are not exactly lighting the world on fire right now. And I think there are a lot of questions about Bill Self's longevity at Kansas, but whether it be health, rules violations, recruiting, the way that college basketball has changed, because again, and this is the Nick Saban, Mike Krzyzewski conundrum, only in reverse with basketball, because what just happened? NIL likely saved college basketball. And how did it save college basketball? It's keeping kids in college longer.
Yes.
Whereas in football, you're trying to get to the league almost no matter what. You're going to the NFL as soon as you can. Now in college basketball, the G League Ignite folded. And why? Because they don't have the availability of talent. Because now the talent can make millions and millions of dollars in NIL. So again, Mike Gundy, you can talk about not embracing the portal and not embracing NIL. You can be as Dabo Sweeney as you want. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. And it's why you see certain teams succeed on a regular. It's why, again, ATN got a DUI this weekend at Georgia. Again, is anybody going to penalize Kirby Smart for that? No, not a chance in the world. Not a chance in the world. That because your 20-year-old running back had a elevated blood alcohol level. Like, are you kidding me? He's 20 years old. He's not even supposed to be drinking. Nobody's going to say 2 words to Kirby Smart about that.
Nope.
Why is that? Because Kirby Smart does what Mike Gundy and everybody else in the Big 12 does not, and that is win.
Yeah.
He's a dynasty level head coach.
And you can't afford to burn that bridge, or not even burn the bridge, but just you can't afford to put that in jeopardy, right? I mean, you're with the landscape in college football now, if you're one of those schools that wins every single year, you're, as a head coach, you're pretty much bulletproof.
It's not good enough. And I just don't understand why this is bandied about. And this Duke thing is a perfect example. If you're a Duke fan, is your expectation that we're just going to make the tournament? If you're a UConn basketball fan, is your expectation you're just going to make the tournament?
Well, I think Duke's an interesting example, because I do think that for a minute there after Coach K's retirement, I do think Duke fan was like, yeah, I mean, hopefully, we have no idea what this team's going to look like now that we've moved on from a guy who's been here for however long he was there.
You've been fine.
And now you've been fine. And I would agree this year. Yeah. I mean, again, you look at their path, like they've got, Houston's a good team, but I think we can all agree that Kyle Filipowski's not going to put 3 points up in back-to-back games.
All I'm saying is, when you're an elite team and you have this mystique of, hey, we're the best. Well, the best win. And they don't win in October in football. They don't win in December in basketball. Well, they do, but that winning continues into November, December, and January in football, and it continues in March and early April in basketball. It's not good enough anymore in this current ecosystem and climate of college athletics. And I don't know why it's tough to embrace, but man, I'm telling you, it's not good enough anymore just to be, oh, well, we competed, and that's not good enough anymore. It's because kids don't want to go to your university if you're not going to win, because the NIL money's out there everywhere. So now it's a combination of, am I going to get paid and am I going to play in big games? And if the answer is not yes to both of those, they're not coming. So we can sit here and we can talk about the Big 12 is this elite product. Is it really, though? Is it really the best team? And if we're truth telling about the Big 12, the best football program in that conference next season will be Utah, who has not had an elite quarterback in a generation. You have not had an elite quarterback. Let that sink in. Alex Smith had how many current young Utah fans ever saw Alex Smith play football with the U on the side of his helmet? I would say almost none. We're talking about a generation who's never seen Utah with an elite quarterback. We're talking about a generation who does not know, I think, in any way, shape, or form, what Texas Tech is capable of, what Baylor football should be. You don't know. The 17 to 21-year-old in this country has no idea what the Big 12 used to be. They have no idea what Texas A&M means. They have no idea what Nebraska means. So we can sit here and we can talk about, well, hey, like Mike Gundy's another good example. Mike Gundy, he wins. He wins. Across the board, they win, right? They're competitive. They go to bowl games. Not good enough. It's not good enough anymore. The game is completely changed. So we can sit here and we could talk about, hey, well, the Big 12. You know what the truth is about the Big 12? The Big 12 wasn't good enough before Brett Yormark showed up, because Brett Yormark's not looking to just chill. He's not willing to rest on the history of the Big 12. No, Brett Yormark wants to cut a new Big 12. Brett Yormark wants to be the preeminent basketball brand in this country. And if that means targeting Duke, that's exactly what he should be doing. Is Duke coming to the Big 12? I would say that's going to be a difficult pull. Is it impossible? It's not, because Brett Yormark is actually going out and making the effort. Is Duke a comfortable fit in the Big 12? It's not. It's not. Tobacco Road running in the Buckies is not exactly a comfortable marriage. It's not a marriage made in Naismith heaven, right? So we can sit here and we can talk about, oh, the history and the tradition of the Big 12. Nobody cares. You know why? Because the fans that are going to pay the most money, they don't remember that. The fans that are going to be the future foundation of this league don't remember Nebraska is a Big 12 member. They simply do not. And now it's all about individual performances. And now it's all about NIL. And now it's all about the transfer portal. And if you don't embrace that, and if you want to keep, and I see this in our comment section every single day on YouTube, well, the Big 12 hit, and nobody cares about the history of the Big 12. That's just the reality of it. Do you think the 30-something in this country that is watching football on television and buying jerseys and hats and foam fingers, do you really think that they care about the history and the tradition? Do you think they have ever heard of Barry Switzer? Do you think they know who Tom Osborne or Tommy Frazier are? Do you think they know who R.C. Slocum is? Do you think they know about Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders? Because I'm here to tell you they don't. They don't care. They don't know, and they don't want to know. They want to know what now. They want to know why. And again, I'll just keep picking on Mike Gundy, I guess. Why don't you care about the Oklahoma game? Why don't you care? Because I think Oklahoma State fans care about the Oklahoma game. They care about Bedlam. And Mike Gundy apparently does not, until he's sobbing like a little bitch after the game that he finally won, which is, oh, that's right. That's when he decided to care.
I'm a man.
When they finally won Bedlam, and it finally meant something because you finally won a game against Oklahoma. Oh, now it matters. That's why I said Oklahoma won't move on until Mike Gundy moves on. Oklahoma will not become what it should be until Mike Gundy moves on. The Big 12 will fail to live up to it in football until Texas Tech and Oklahoma State win, and I mean win big in college football. Go into the playoff and win a playoff game. And now I think the minimum standard, if you're not one of the 12 best teams in the country, you're not. Are you really all that successful if you're not one of the 12 best teams in the country?
No, I completely agree with that, Con. And we had this heated debate with you guys about this. You got to be top 12. You have to be, because if you're not making money. Yeah, cool. Your fans will come in and you'll get your, whatever it is, 4 or 5 regular season games at home. Okay, that's cool. But you're not making over the top TV money at that point. You're just kind of covering cost.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting time. And I also think that what I wouldn't categorize it as good, but of Duke joining the Big 12. But notice that I think everybody's well aware. North Carolina, if they escape, where are they going?
Yeah,
going to the Big 10.
Yep.
If North Carolina escapes and they go anywhere but the Big 10, I would be really surprised by that.
And I think that, the loss of UNC Duke inside tournament play every year would be unfortunate, but it's just the reality of it. And I think your point, like the same way that's a reality is the same way that yeah, nobody cares about the history or tradition of, in my opinion, really any conference. I don't care that Nebraska used to be good or that, Stanford used to win. I personally don't care. It doesn't matter because your history's not paying today's bills. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, you have to win now. So it's cool. Like again, it's cool if you're that school that's like, yeah, we used to win, and the Big 12 as a conference used to be really, really good and top of the mountain. Well, now you got to reclimb the mountain, and I think that's what Brett's trying to do here.
I think it's really sad that we don't care about history in this country, and I think millennials specifically, I think, just wrote off and erased history because they're too fucking lazy to go back and research it, and they're too lazy to understand what happened to get college athletics to where it is. I think that's the painful reality of it. But I think when you look at the Big 12, I think if we're talking about, who's a target in the ACC, I mean, I would start with Louisville. I don't think there's any doubt that Louisville is another one of those teams that Brett Yormark is back channeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are a lot of brands that fit in the Big 12 in the ACC. It's a question of, can you make a sales pitch to Duke? Can you make a sales pitch to Louisville? Because I do think that Louisville will have options. I do think that Duke clearly is going to have options. There's not a conference in this country that wouldn't like to have Duke as a member of its fraternity.
Totally agree.
That's very difficult. But if you look at Florida State, I think Florida State's only home is the SEC. I think North Carolina is going to the Big 10. I don't think there's any doubt. Clemson, I have no idea what Clemson's end goal is because Clemson doesn't, in my mind, fit anywhere but the SEC. And if you're Florida State and Clemson and you're able to hop, and if you're the SEC, you're not saying no to that. You're absolutely not saying no to that.
Yeah, and I think the timeline around when the ACC situation commences, if you will, is going to be fascinating to watch play out because, again, I don't think that that's going to go anywhere for several years. I mean, unless there's some sort of huge formatic change in college football, let's say. I mean, we've talked about, hey, when will the bracket get expanded? Okay, that's something, but that's not change on the level of, hey, we're going to roll out a 3-tier college football system. That's changing the fabric of the game and the path to winning. And so that's why I say, because of the grant of rights situation in the ACC, I just don't know how else these schools leave outside of huge change in the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think it is money and access to championships. But Clemson is very much Oak State.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of them are willing to do what it takes to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Florida State for everything that they're not, including winners. Florida State is that brand that I think every year has the ability to win, which I don't think you can say about most universities anymore. If we're being completely honest, you look at 99% of the Big 10, they don't have the ability to win.
Right.
But you look at the Big 12 and it's all self-inflicted. I mean, it's bad decisions at Baylor. It's bad practice. It is bad, in my opinion, execution from a business standpoint at Oklahoma State. I think you look at coaching decisions. Like Houston, it's not good enough. And I love Dana Holgerson. I think the world of Dana. It wasn't good enough. They weren't moving in the right direction. They fired Dana Holgerson. But you go over to Waco and you're like, well, I mean, this is good enough clearly because they kept Dave Aranda. So Baylor's telling you it's good enough. Okie State's telling you, hey, we go to a bowl every year. It's fine. It's fine. We've got all money. It's fine.
Yeah, we get to show up in the championship game just to get beat down by Texas once in a while. you know, and now
Texas
that's
Tech,
over with.
it's fine. It's totally fine that we completely dropped a dud in football and then went out early in the NCAA tournament. Look at all these tortillas. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not fine. What if Sonny Dykes has another bad season at TCU?
Now we got to start talking about how much you embrace NIL in the portal. Now I got to start understanding what your tactics are, because you really shouldn't struggle to recruit in the Big 12 as TCU.
How is it possible in this league that we have so many questions in the Big 12 about quarterback? How is that possible? But we have no questions about quarterback in the SEC. We have no questions about quarterback at the top. You lost Will Howard to the Big 10. K-State lost Will Howard to Ohio State. Is that a good look or a bad look? I'm going to say that's a bad look.
Yeah.
It's not like he transferred to Texas. It's not like oh my God. I mean, how on earth? How did he wind up flying past Oklahoma State? I mean, I know Alan Bowman is, good God, the greatest quarterback anybody's seen since Brandon Weeden.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Stay hard. But Will Howard didn't go to Oklahoma State. I can't believe
I mean, it must have just been an oversight. He must have just not had them in the conversation. I mean, come on.
What?
Come on.
He went to anybody questioning Will Howard saying yes to Ohio State. I'm not. That makes perfect sense.
And by the way, for his position, he can't afford to go to Oklahoma State. He needs to go to a big time program.
Is Will Howard going to compete for a national championship?
Yeah, he is. And again, all it is for Will Howard is, hey, go out and do your job. Play good football. Your team will be in the conversation. And again, I think that's another part of the conversation. Dude, if you're not one of those squads that's like, hey, if you play well, you're in, what are you doing? That's why the Baylors of the world are so shocking. That's why, the lower end ACC teams are so shocking that you don't, like, dude, look at Colorado. Look at what Colorado's done here. You're talking about a team who's now won in the tournament, right? You went to a new conference, you're winning in the tournament, and Prime should be better this year. Colorado's on the right track. They understand what they need to be doing.
And again, I just ask, if the Big 12 is this old boy network of these great universities on the field, why is Utah, why is Colorado, like next year when all these basketball programs are in the league, this can be a much better league. This is going to be the best basketball league in the country is going to be a much better league.
Yeah.
I warned you about Colorado.
You did.
Nice
100%.
run to the tournament.
And that was a hell of a game against Marquette.
Look at Arizona basketball. Yeah. Look at Arizona basketball. Right? I'm telling you, Brett Yormark. And I wouldn't stop looking past UConn either, because I think Brett Yormark is the difference with Brett Yormark is he is playing offense. And I know we say that all the time. And every flipping SEC fan comes into the comments section and gets pissed off that I don't love Greg Sankey, but I would love Greg Sankey to be my commissioner. Well, I don't have a commissioner because I'm a Notre Dame fan. I mean, Jesus Christ is my commissioner.
Right.
Who are we kidding? But if I were affiliated in a conference, would you take any other commissioner besides Greg Sankey? I would not.
No,
I would not. But Brett Yormark has to be in that conversation. Brett Yormark or Tony Petitti? Yeah, I'll take Brett Yormark.
Yeah.
I mean, and go down the list. Phillips or Yormark? I'll take Yormark.
Yeah.
I will take Yormark. Phillips looks awfully weak. Yeah,
I mean, put Yormark in Tony Petitti's shoes and see what it is, because that's the thing that shocks me so much about the Big Ten SEC dominance is that Tony Petitti largely is along for the ride. I mean, this is Greg Sankey's show, and
I would agree with that.
Tony Petitti, credit to him. You got yourself in a position where you're running the most well-paid conference in the country. But I just wonder, hey, if you had Brett Yormark in his chair, dude, I don't even want to know how dominant the Big Ten would be, because at that point, Brett Yormark's got serious power, like financial. You're winning, like you've got everything you need to overtake the SEC, and that's not going to happen under Tony Petitti's watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very interesting, and excuse me for being a rude prick and looking at my phone. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out. And I think that, excuse me, I think that there is no doubt that when you have, and you have the availability, because if you look at the teams that are on the way out of the ACC, I don't think there's any doubt that Brett Yormark is having conversations with all of them. I think if you're just tuning into the show, let me reset the headline for you that Brett Yormark, according to our well-placed sources, is proactively working behind the scenes, reaching out and trying to build networks and connections with Duke, Louisville, and several others that I'm not comfortable naming names at this point. I can only tell you that we've confirmed that Duke and Louisville are at the top of his ACC list of teams. But would it surprise anybody if Brett Yormark has reached out to Bubba Cunningham? Would it surprise anybody if Brett Yormark has back-channeled other athletic directors and presidents in the ACC, which I believe, frankly, I believe, in my opinion, he has, because of the things that I've heard from our sources. But Brett Yormark is absolutely doing everything that he can do to have conversations with Duke and Louisville. And from what I understand, that's just the beginning. He is going to target his number ones in that league. And what that tells me is number one, he's done his homework. He has a list of universities that he wants to bring into the Big 12 if it becomes available. Number two, I was told again straight away, he is still very much in favor of adding Gonzaga to the Big 12. UConn is an awkward fit for the Big 12. I continue to hear that UConn is not an easy relational fit with the Big 12, and I agree with that. But I also look at the inroads that the Big 12 is trying to make into the Northeast, and I think that's a situation I would watch. But I would very much be more keeping my eye on universities like Pitt, the Virginias, if we're talking about other universities down the roster. And I also think one of the more interesting universities in this whole play is North Carolina State, because I continue to be told by people that seemingly know North Carolina and North Carolina State are not tied at the hip, and they will act independently. And I think that we saw this exact same thing with Arizona and Arizona State, where everybody said, "Oh, the government, the powers, the legislature, and they did nothing." Because you can't have two independent entities who have already on multiple occasions voted in opposite, directions in this league and trying to break the grant of rights. You can't make a unilateral decision for two completely different situations. So I think, to put a bow around it, I don't think there's any doubt that Brett Yormark is targeting multiple ACC universities, including Duke and Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt about that.
And I love that he's being proactive. I love that he is, in a way, preparing himself and his conference for what's to come in the future. Because, again, the thing that I think gets left behind by most people who talk about this is understanding the relationship the commissioner has to the presidents of the schools in the conference. So if Brett's going to go out and have these conversations and he's going to back channel and he's going to do these things like we're telling you he is, that would inherently mean that the presidents are well aware of it, that the presidents are understanding, hey, this is what we're looking at potentially inside of 5 years. We're looking at the ACC looking completely different or maybe not existing at all. And we need to be prepared for that outcome. And we need to make sure that we have relationships in place. And as your commissioner, I need to make sure that you're good if I go out and try to court Duke and Louisville at this point. And obviously they're going to say, yes, they're good with that. How could you not be? But my point just is that I think people think that these commissioners just go out and do whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, they still got to go out and get president approval from the member institutions. So it's very much a conference-wide decision to do this stuff.
Well, and I would also point out that here we are again in a situation where I think significant realignment is going to happen, and it's going to be forced by the ACC, who I would also remind you is under contract with ESPN, and I can only say it so many times, and you can disagree with me all you like, but I'm telling you, if you believe that the ACC, which has a contract that is fully in control by ESPN has the option. if you truly believe that ESPN is going to allow all of these universities to walk away from their portfolio, you're crazy. Because all ESPN has to do is stroke the pen and pick up the option on the ACC deal, and it's going to make those trying to get out, it's going to make their lives very much more difficult.
Yes.
And the only way that that gets resolved is a Duke to the Big 12. So I do not think that it is out of the realm of possibility. Again, I'm not willing to sit here and tell you I think it's likely Duke joins the Big 12. But if you really think ESPN's going to let Duke, Carolina, if you really think they're just going to let Florida State, Miami, who I continue to tell you is a thorn in everybody's side in that conference, if you think they're just going to let the Louisvilles, the Virginias, all of these players in the ACC, if you think they're just going to let them walk away to other conferences, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
They're going to protect their contracts and their partners. And one of their major partners in college athletics is the Big 12. And I think you are going to see that ESPN is going to broker, that ESPN is going to be a conduit. And the other thing I'd remind you is Brett Yormark has a great relationship with the ivory tower at ESPN. There is no question about that they have a great relationship. All right, enough of us, more of you, as usual, presented by Prize Picks, prizepicks.com. I don't know how I do it. I don't.
Yeah,
but I continue to dominate Prize Picks. I made $270 over the weekend on Prize Picks.
I have a gripe with Kyle Filipowski. How is it that you put up 3 points? Can I just ask that question? How does that happen?
Because Kyle Filipowski he is not a superstar. He's a guy who can give you production if you need it, but he's not a guy that you build systems around.
Yeah.
He is a complementary player. So when foolish people choose Kyle Filipowski as a building block of their Prize Picks wagers, you're gonna get the piano music, man.
Brutal, bro.
And then there are those of us that build our Prize Pick college football or college basketball foundation on big, tall dudes who are only good because they're tall at Purdue.
I'm for real.
When you make that decision, that's when you begin to prosper and you can afford convenience store burritos on a daily basis.
Y'all feel me?
That's what this is about.
Yes.
I won, and I've won 4 straight plays. I'd remind you that I also take very aggressive plays when Caitlin Clark, more or less half a point. I would remind you that when Chaboy has Dallin Hall for 11 and or for 8.5 and he scores 11, RJ Davis, you want to pick Kyle Filipowski? Hell no. You go to Carolina and you pick RJ Davis.
Oh, man.
Kyle Filipowski is Armando Baycott. You can't count on that fat boy, but you can count on RJ Davis. Baycott's not fat. You just pissed me off because I just needed 14 little points and he scored 3 or 4, whatever it was. But to go Justin Steele, Sam Burns, and Zach Edey. I'm just like, this is what I do.
Right.
If you're not playing Prize Picks in the NCAA tournament, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Opening day is Thursday in Major League Baseball. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Prize Picks, this is the best time of year for Prize Picks. We've got NBA. We've got the NCAA tournament. And now we've got Major League Baseball. Download the Prize Picks app right now. Use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, to get 100% deposit matching. You put in 5, they'll give you 10. You put in 10, they'll make it 20. Put in 50, they'll make it 100. Put in 100, they'll make it 200. You can play Prize Picks. I've been playing on $20 for about 3 months now. Come on, man. I'm telling you. Get on board.
Yeah.
Let's in our little members only group, we got a bunch of dudes always DMing me when they win, never DMing me when they lose. I don't know anybody who does that.
Wow.
Who only shows up to talk about Prize Picks when they win.
Why don't you fuck off?
I'm here every day.
Yeah, okay.
Because I play every day.
You know.
NCAA tournament. I might be done with golf.
Why are you done with golf, man?
Harmon let me down.
Dude watches 2 episodes of Full Swing and all of a sudden he realizes what it is out there.
What do you mean? I've watched more than 2 episodes of Full Swing. I know Joel Damon needs help.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
I know Joel Damon needs help. All right, let's see. Wow, we have a lot of comments this morning. Thank you guys as always. Download the Prize Picks app, use promo code Monty, save 20 or get to 100% deposit matching, whatever. Kenneth Maynor, who's been a member for 7 months.
Let me pull it out for you.
Let's go. Tobacco Road Trio alive and well. 919 represent. Exactly right. UW fan Jim, a member for 7 months. The president of the Roman Dunze fan club says, happy Monday, boys. No, happy Monday to you, sir. Jim, good to see you. Hello? Okay. I'm trying to get back to, Little Jizzy was first one in today.
Who knew?
Mountain Mama. How's Neil Brown? How's that basketball team doing? Hit the like button, please. Yes. Dakota Tubbs, Jizzy the Hizzy. Mark Hales, good morning. Morning Casuals, have a great show. Thank you. Maury Alvarez, our great Floridian. Second like, smash the like button, everyone. Yes, where are we at? Let's see. We are at 750 views and only 39 likes.
Because it's garbage.
Bro.
You guys, come on.
And kick a person when he's down.
Come on. And if you're one of the, what are we at? 400 views on Twitter this morning. Get over to YouTube. Just Google search The Monty Show. MONTY, The Monty Show. Click the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button. We appreciate that.